Hello, my name is Ken Livingston, Senior Director of Student Success with United Way of Delaware. I would like to welcome you to this year's GLR Week celebration titled Focus on the Gaps. Focused on the Gaps reflects on our continued and growing concern about the large number of children stranded on the wrong side of the learning achievement, internet access, and other opportunity gaps exposed by the exacerbation of COVID-19 pandemic. Our United Way of Delaware GLR Week webinar session will provide information on the gaps and how we seek out strategies and solutions that are powerful enough and targeted enough to close those gaps. We hope that you will be engaged and share in our commitment to become increasingly intentional and explicit about naming, mapping, and shrinking those identified gaps. Please follow us throughout GLR Week by using the social media links and hashtags that are on the screen. Also, as housekeeping tips for our viewing audience, please introduce yourself in the chat box. Also, if you have any questions, once again, please identify yourself and list those questions in the chat box. And all resources from this webinar can be made available by once again leaving your contact name and email in the chat box. Now it's time to meet our panelists. As previously mentioned, my name is Ken Livingston, Senior Director of Student Success at United Way of Delaware, where I am dedicated to leading and growing our Get Delaware Reading and Campaign for Grade Level Reading initiative, which addresses working with the Delaware Department of Education, various school districts, and key community partners to increase the number of students reading on grade level by the completion of third grade. Our first panelist will be Ebony Brown, Senior Director of Student Success for Career and College Readiness at United Way of Delaware. Ebony is responsible for building and leading programs for the advancement of young people through education and workforce development within underserved communities. Ebony is a positive and powerful voice and well known in the city of Wilmington, having built strong relationships throughout her career in community health and in the nonprofit sector. Ebony's passion, positive attitude, and tireless energy to build health and strong communities has made an incredible and lasting mark on her community. Today, we will also hear from Laura Goodman, a former 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teacher with a background in research and intervention from Duke University, Fast Track, and Durham Public Schools. She developed and trained teachers with innovative instruction practices as a middle school language and arts department chair in the Wake County School District and as an academic coach in the Moore County Schools. Laura has a BA from Vanderbilt University and an MS in education from the University of Pennsylvania. Laura has been supporting successful partnerships for literacy and math tutoring with deserving students across the country within the past 4 years for the organization Booknote. I would like to set the stage for this webinar by showing a brief video titled The Statistics Lottery, which shows the impact of children born into low-income zip codes and how they have the potential to face challenges and how those challenges can affect them from reading on third grade level.
Meet Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Jordan, and Jamie Johnson, 2 beautiful babies born on the very same day. Each baby has a good chance of landing in a good place in life, as long as one of them doesn't lose the zip code lottery. Like 1 million babies each year, Jamie's been born into a low-income family. And since Jamie's mom lacked access to good prenatal care, Jamie is much smaller than Jordan. And since they won't have access to brain-developing activities found in high-quality childcare, low-income children like Jamie will be 2 times more likely to experience developmental delays. It probably won't surprise you that by their 3rd birthday, Jamie's been exposed to a lot fewer words than Jordan. A whole lot fewer. And I imagine Jamie's 4th birthday won't be much better. By the time they reach kindergarten, Jamie will have already fallen behind Jordan in language and pre-reading skills by 12 to 14 months. And getting to school on a regular basis will be perhaps Jamie's biggest challenge. Unfortunately, a myriad of health, transportation, and housing problems will cause between 5 and 7.5 million Jamies to be chronically absent this year. But with summer right around the corner, you'd think Jamie would have plenty of time to catch up with Jordan then. Sadly, summer presents new challenges for Jamie. A mountain of challenges. You see, every summer, Jordan's learning will evolve by a month because of access to libraries, field trips, and camps, while Jamie will lose 2 months of school learning every summer because good habits such as reading haven't been reinforced. By the time they reach 3rd grade, Jamie will be between 2 and 2.5 school years behind Jordan in critical reading skills. And how much more likely is Jamie to drop out than Jordan because he can't read at a 3rd grade level? 13 times more likely, and the results of which are frankly catastrophic. Wait just 1 minute there, folks. The story doesn't end right there. Fortunately for Jamie and Jordan and all of us, there's a whole lot of folks out there that believe neither luck, nor lottery, nor zip codes should dictate Jamie's future, who also believe that our schools can't do it alone. Luckily, there are leaders, organizations, and good people out there that are dedicated to believing in a whole lot more. The solution right now is relatively straightforward if we can commit to 4 things. Number 1, we need to make sure our kids are healthy and ready for school. Number 2, we need to ensure they grow up in a word and book-enriched environment. Number 3, we need to engage them in healthy and educational activities over the summer. Number 4, we need to make sure that Jamie attends school every single day, because at the end of the day, you and I both know that lotteries, zip codes, and plain old dumb luck don't really author our children's future. We do.
And next, I'll be sharing briefly how United Way of Delaware is building on a foundation of collective impact. At United Way of Delaware, we are transforming the power of collective impact, embodying our belief that profound, sustainable change can only be achieved through unified efforts. This approach further focuses our effort on the collective of diverse stakeholders, nonprofits, business, government agencies, and community members, all working towards a common agenda for system change by aligning our goals, measuring outcomes, consistently engaging in mutually reinforced activities, and communicating effectively. We aim to address complex social issues and collectively than any single entity alone. This model ensures continuous communication and strong backbone support, critical for maintaining the momentum and adapting strategies in real time. And now we will hear from my colleague, Ebony Brown.
Thank you, Ken. United Way of Delaware's 5-year strategic plan is designed within a collective impact framework. This ensures that we address specific challenges by working collaboratively across systems and communities within 4 quadrants of 211 Delaware's helpline, career and college success, financial empowerment, and early student success to create lasting, widespread change in literacy proficiency throughout Delaware. Within the Early Student Success Initiative, United Way of Delaware is catalyzing high-dosage reading programming to close the literacy gap during the summer months and in out-of-school time settings, strategically designed to mitigate educational gaps and boost proficiency levels. This initiative underscores our commitment to address immediate learning challenges and fosters a nurturing environment that propels students toward academic and social emotional success and brighter futures, which leads us to our topic of today. The problem and why we fight. Our Delaware landscape is shown above. Reading proficiency in Delaware is unequal, worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly affecting children from low-income areas. Reading proficiency is an essential skill needed to thrive. Children who do not read proficiently by the end of 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. Today, a little over 7% of our youth, ages 16 to 24, are disconnected from school or work. For Black youth, that number climbs to 22% across the first state. In 2023, 11 out of 100 3rd grade students were reading at grade level in our lowest performing schools. In zip codes 19801, Wilmington, just over 13 out of 100 students were reading proficiently. These areas are 72% Black African American, and the poverty rate is 27%. Conversely, in zip code 19707, Hocassin, more than 64 out of 100 3rd graders were reading at grade level. These areas are 81% white or Caucasian, and the poverty rate is at 2.2%. Place and race significantly impacts reading proficiently, and we aim to change this to provide equitable opportunities for all children. United Way of Delaware is investing in Book Nook as a solution to closing the literacy gap. It's a cutting-edge educational platform based on the science of reading, designed to foster literacy development and a love for reading among students in a fun and interactive way. This innovative K-8 literacy tool is a standardized ELA tool that includes pre and post assessments, as well as online culturally responsive curriculum that improves literacy. The platform identifies students' reading levels and offers applied practice to help improve reading comprehension fluency. Our goal at United Way of Delaware is to work collectively with partners with a common agenda to improve overall literacy proficiency through a shared measurement system, while focusing on youth from zip codes and racial demographics facing the greatest systematic inequities. We aim to address several root causes of low proficiency: lack of early literacy support outside of school, inequitable access to rigorous evidence-based after-school reading instruction, need for culturally responsive, diverse, and inclusive reading material, summer learning loss and unfinished learning, lack of family engagement or support to help extend learning beyond the school day. So far, our success this past year, which includes the summer and the school year, we've had 1,200 students enrolled in Book Nook and 900 demonstrated increased literacy proficiency. Book Nook was implemented across 17 different organizations and 42 sites across the state of Delaware in all 3 counties. Now we'll have a deep dive into the Book Nook platform and how you can replicate this in your state. We'll now hear from Laura Goodman, Account Executive with Book Nook.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ebony. It's such a pleasure to be here and talk about our amazing partnership with Book Nook and United Way of Delaware. Again, thank you for having me. Thank you, Fallon and Ken. And again, I'm Laura Goodman, Account Executive at Book Nook. And today's presentation will be all about our partnership this year. And I have some data to share with you and other information about our program. I want to begin with this quote. I love this quote from Ben Franklin. It's what Book Nook is all about, involving students in their learning, being personal. And that's what effective education is. And what kids like best about Book Nook is the relationship they gain with their awesome coach who has their back and cheers them on. So our program with United Way of Delaware is wonderful because it allows their staff tutors to focus on what they do best, and that's being great with kids. So my focus for the next few minutes will be really to showcase this incredible program we had at the United Way of Delaware. We've been long-term amazing partners, but we'll focus on this year, and we'll look at Book Nook's solution and our results with the program. And then we'll discuss virtual tutoring in math from a high level. So how does that sound? Okay, so let's discuss our solution. Our Book Nook program for reading and the efficacy behind that, because I know you care about efficacy. Our lessons are grounded in the science of reading and dedicated to support student engagement in the 5 components of the science of reading. So Book Nook's phonological awareness and phonics lessons are designed to support students in building, reading, practicing, and retaining foundational skills in both phonological awareness and phonics. Our fluency lessons provide students the opportunity to practice and build their skills in oral fluency, and our comprehension lessons support students in practicing and building in vocabulary and comprehension components of the science of reading. So at the core of every Book Nook lesson is a text. Our library has over 850 authentic texts, and our selection process draws from text complexity, standard alignment, diversity and inclusion, and topic exposure. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. We want students to see themselves in the text that they read, and we want them to build content knowledge in fiction and nonfiction across the curriculum. I know as a teacher that kids really get into the content and they love to talk about what they read. So on the right at the top, you'll see a quote from one of our Book Nook tutors. Just they can, like in the United Way, their tutors can leave notes in the program about every session and about interesting things that happened or just data to capture that's incremental. And this quote is about how excited the students were to be reading a book about penguins. So in November, Book Nook was designated as ESSA Level 1 for efficacy, which is the highest level of efficacy by the Consortium for Public Policy and Research at Columbia University. And this was based on a randomized control trial with 1,700 students. Half the students received Book Nook tutoring and the other half had their regular intervention. What the study showed is that with 20 sessions, students made substantial gains. 10 percentile points with NWEA MAP testing. And you can see on the next slide, there's a chart. So what's neat is that all the students showed progress, but with those 20 sessions, students really took off. So what 10 percentile points means is that if a student came in at 50% proficient, after a short period of time, they would be at 60%. This study was also efficient because it took place in 10 weeks. So during that short window, the students made that much growth that we could substantiate. Also, what's really exciting is that our impact was consistent and equitable. So students with special needs, ESL students, students across all demographic groups grew, and they all demonstrated progress. So let's zero in on the results in this fall and spring program with United Way of Delaware. This is an overview of our general usage in the program from October to May of this year. There were 1,355 total sessions completed with 532 hours of practice and 118 unique curriculum standards practiced. So all of our lessons are research-based and core curriculum aligned. So 100% of the time is focused on those curriculum standards that the students need to succeed in school. At the core and at the end of every lesson, students are asked, was Book Nook fun today? And what this chart shows is aggregated results over the whole program. And we know that kids are honest. And what this slide shows is that 79.5% of the time in this program, kids said that Book Nook was mostly fun, very fun, or okay. And we love that because we know that their Book Nook time in the United Way was competing with other really fun activities. So it's great to see that the kids were enjoying that time learning. The next slide shows the hours of practice in the program by grade level. So you can see how substantial this focused time was for the students all together at each grade level, with the high points being third graders and fifth graders who practiced for over 100 hours of solid reading lessons and reading books together with their tutors. Okay, and then if you look at the next slide, what it shows is skill development by grade level. So this is not a total, it's an average. So for each student in the program, at each grade level, how many average curriculum standards did they practice over that time? With a low number over in kindergarten on the left, each kindergartner in the program practiced an average of 5 unique curriculum standards, and the high being the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders practicing maybe 12, 13 unique curriculum standards during their time with United Way and Book Nook program. Okay, and the next slide shows the skill development totals by grade level and also considering the lesson types. So we mentioned earlier that there are 3 types of lessons: comprehension, fluency, and phonological awareness in phonics. So in light blue, you can see the total number of curriculum standards that students at each grade level practiced, which were associated with phonological awareness and phonics. The largest numbers being at the lower grade levels, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, but still third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th, and 8th graders practiced those skills. So our algorithm chose those lessons for those students based on what they needed. They needed those phonological awareness and phonics skills because they didn't have them coming in. And then you can see in dark blue our comprehension, the number of curriculum standards at each grade level that students practice total associated with comprehension. Just a tremendous amount of content that will help them gain comprehension skills. And then you can see in the middle in gray, our fluency standards kind of scattered in, standards associated with fluency that the students practiced and benefited from in the program. Looking at the next slide, these last 2 slides go together. So this is the passage rates based on the lesson type. So in dark blue at the bottom are the comprehension passage rates, and in light blue at the top are phonological awareness and phonics passage rates. So what this slide shows you is with this program, students at every grade level were presented phonological awareness and phonics lessons because they needed those skills. And then at the end of the lesson, they passed at a rate above 80%, really in many cases in the 90s and 100s. So they were presented with material and they attained it and showed proficiency well. And then you can see at the bottom the comprehension skills, those percentages of those passage rates were from 50% down to 33%. So when students were presented with comprehension lessons, they had more detailed texts and questions that required a higher depth of knowledge. They had a harder time passing those. And we see this kind of in every implementation with every partner that we work with. The students really need comprehension skills. And it's so great with this program that they got so much practice in this area that is challenging for them, that they needed. And they gained skills that will be so beneficial for them, not just in the classroom in language arts, but in every subject area. Okay, so looking at the next slide, this is where you can start to see student progress. In BookNook, we measure student progress based on what content students are practicing in the program. So where did they begin? And then where did they progress through and finish? What grade level was that content associated with according to our BookNook lesson bands? So what this is showing is that when students fell into our power users of attendance groups of over 20 lessons, we could start to demonstrate significant progress of 2 to up to over 6 lesson bands of progress. So, and I'll show you on the next slide what that looks like in terms of averages. So looking at the fourth grade group, in that attendance group, students who completed 20 sessions or more, the average starting place, just focusing on fourth grade, was third grade beginning of the year. And those students, when they completed the program from October to May, finished at fourth grade beginning of the year, progressing 3 BookNook lesson bands. Again, this is the content and the grade level associated with that content that they're showing proficiency in practicing in. It's not a diagnostic. So for the fourth grade group, that demonstrates really a gap to grade level improvement, which is really exciting. Those students began below grade level and they finished at grade level. Just really, really wonderful and exciting growth. And there's even bigger growth that we can show here on this chart. If you look at 7th and 8th graders who started several grade levels behind in this program, they showed proficiency and advanced 6 and 7 BookNook lesson bands, advancing multiple years, still finishing not at grade level, but making such significant progress that they bridge that gap of learning to read to reading to learn. So they've walked away from the program with, really beneficial skills. And the next slide is another demonstration of gap to grade level. Again, focusing on the content that the students are practicing in the program and the proficiency that's allowing them to progress. In light blue are the power users, the students who practice more than 20 sessions. And you can see if you focus on the scale on the left-hand side of the chart, that students who began 2 grade levels behind on average completed the program less than 1 grade level behind. So closing that gap. These were all the students in the program. The next slide shows the elementary students. If you focus on the scale on the left, it's a little bit narrower. So those students began, again, focusing on the bright blue power users, more than 1 grade level behind, and they finished less than 1 grade level behind, a half a grade level behind. The next slide are our middle school users. And what this shows is, again, focusing on the scale on the left, a much larger scale. So students beginning several grade levels behind, more than 3 grade levels behind, and finishing a little bit more than 1 grade level behind. So closing that gap to grade level in a way which is so meaningful. Okay, and then I'm going to shift a little bit and talk a little bit more about BookNook and some of the other programs that we have. The next slide is about BookNook tutors. So we offer, in addition to providing content for your tutors, we call in-house tutoring. We also have BookNook tutors that can work with students virtually in both reading and math. And when we sign on to begin a program, we match tutors to students for the duration of that program. So the same tutor works with the same students every time, all throughout that program. It usually the programs are shorter, so maybe a fall program. The tutors would begin and then they'd work with the students over a couple of months, but they really have an opportunity to develop relationships. And what you can see, the quote on this slide is about how engaged the students were in the program. Just another thing to emphasize on the next slide is that with our Book Nook tutors, they're all background checked. We also certify the tutors and provide professional development for them, as well as resources. We have an entire team that's dedicated to supporting them. With our virtual tutoring, we also offer math. And math integrates a virtual whiteboard with communication tools, and it's a totally synchronous experience. So you can see here on the slide that there is two-way embedded video and text tools and shapes for hands-on problem solving. You can see how the tutors and the students build solutions by manipulating shapes together. And on the next slide, you can see just a little bit about our math lessons are sequenced with lesson paths and a consistent lesson flow, which goes from concrete to abstract. And the next slide just shows a little bit about how we build a program. If you were interested in using Book Nook tutoring virtually, in reading or math, we would build it together based around your goals. Totally flexible. We could tutor students from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. In school, after school, from home. We can combine sites because it's virtual. So if you had a few students at multiple sites, we could group those students together if you wanted to. And what you might find is if you have students who you'd like to serve and you don't have enough in-person staff, our tutors can be there to help those kids who need help the most. So, and if you're interested in chatting about options, I'd love to follow up with you. And Ken and Ebony and Fallon will share my contact information. So thank you for allowing me to present today. It's so wonderful to be here. And I'm going to shift it back over for the Q&A.
Thank you both, Ebony and Laura, for such a deep impact into how United Way of Delaware is utilizing Book Nook to really transform our literacy landscape throughout the summer months and then also during the out of school time space. We truly believe that Book Nook is a game changer if used to fidelity. So once again, just thank you both for coming on and joining me today. And now I just wanted to ask you to just a few follow-up questions, if you don't mind. Our first question is, what does collective impact look like when addressing the literacy gap throughout the state of Delaware? If Ebony, if you could kick us off with beginning to answer that first question, and then Laura, if you wanted to follow up, please feel free.
Sure. Thanks, Ken. At United Way of Delaware, we have so many fantastic partners who all have the same agenda to address the literacy gap throughout the state. For me, collective impact is not just about getting partners together. It's also about engaging the parents to help support what we're trying to do in the out of school time space and the school time space. It's also about our community. How can the community also help us address these needs within our students who are struggling with literacy and math? So for me, when we're talking about collective impact and addressing literacy throughout the state of Delaware, it's about a combined effort between our partners, our student parents, as well as our community members to come together. We all have the same common agenda to address this need and work together with I'm going to call it not a streamline, but the same type of platform or tool so that we can measure appropriately across the state to see where our students are really struggling and how the tools are helping to improve their math and literacy skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I would add to that are just three parts from our perspective: organization, resources, and accountability. So organizations, I mean, to be able to work with an awesome organization like Ebony's, United Way of Delaware, is amazing. And we try to be flexible to meet you where you're at with whatever you might need in terms of serving your community. With resources, Book Nook provides resources that makes it really easy on your end. You can focus on working with the kids, and we have everything else ready to go for you. You don't need to collect the books. You don't need to write the lessons. All of that is easy to go and all set. And then the last part, I think that I can't help but mention, I didn't mention, well, I guess the whole presentation was about that, is accountability, and that's data. And we work together a lot, looking at data together, providing data, analyzing data. That accountability piece, I think, is really important.
Thank you. Thank you. And Ebony, you alluded to parenting and what parenting engagement and what are some of the things that parents could do to really help foster literacy in the home and then also in the community as well.
Absolutely. I think it brings in some of what United Way's 4 pillars are. And it's that 211 resource line. Book Nook is obviously, it's an online platform, and some parents may not have the technology to do this at home. So calling 211 and reaching out, we can help provide that technology resource to support parents to use different platforms at home to practice with their students. Also, there's so many different programs and activities that can be used to help practice and just support what the Book Nook tool is doing. For example, library cards, or just reading to your student at home. Also some adult literacy programs. Some parents maybe they can't read either, and how can we help those parents help their kids read too? I remember when I was working at St. Francis, I had a lot of parents who could not read. And I would give out books at doctor's appointments, and I say, your kids don't know what you're reading. So how about make it fun and look at the pictures and make it up as you go along? It's that one-on-one connection, that engagement that you're having with your students, the talking back and forth, the reading to each other. It's part of the practice. And it's part of that relationship building between the parents, the students, as well as the teachers when they go to school.
Yes, and then Laura, did you have any additional follow-up onto that question on, like what role do you really see parents playing to help foster literacy in the home?
Yeah, I love everything that Ebony said, and I just think parents listening to their students read, parents reading to their students, and then children seeing parents read, I think is really great too. And reading, I think the library is the best place. There's nowhere better than the library, and it is free, but reading is everywhere. It's street signs, it's in the store, it's all over your home, it's everywhere. There's reading, and there are letters and there are words to discuss.
And also, Ken, if I can just add one more point, I think understanding the resources that are available in the out of school time space where parents may be dropping off their students before and after school, understanding what the programs there are being offered that support that literacy help. So, if a lot of our partners, our out of school time partners, are using Book Nook right now, and it's placed in the before and after school time. So if parents are able to, take advantage of that, have your kids go to before and after school, let them spend that time on Book Nook to get that extra practice and help, that's only going to improve their skills in the long run.
I definitely agree. And I truly appreciate you both taking the time to share some additional time to answer these engaging and thoughtful and pertinent questions. I think we do have the challenge of collectively working together to really identify a course that we can align and work together to really increase our literacy and math proficiency rates throughout the state of Delaware. One of the hats I wear under our Get Delaware reading model is that I try to provide as many books to students throughout the state of Delaware as possible, whether they're in their identified schools or whether I'm at a community event throughout the state. So really, parents, if you're watching today, or community members or partnering organizations, please contact us over at United Way of Delaware, so that we can get those books into the hands of students. We want to create and foster their love of reading, while also, if a student doesn't, really have a love of reading yet, we want to help to encourage them. I think more students as well just need encouragement to let them know that it's okay. You know what I mean? We're here to help. If you're not a strong reader, we can provide you with a mentoring, a reading coach that will help to mentor you through our Reading Angels program. So we have a lot of additional resources that we really just want to foster that love of reading in order to help students to become strong readers for on grade level reading by the completion of third grade. I would now like just to have an opportunity for you two to have any final words or any final thoughts before we conclude with this webinar. Laura, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
It's just such a pleasure to be here. It's an awesome partnership that we've had and with United Way of Delaware, and really grateful for the opportunity to help so many students with their reading. And thanks for having me today.
So I would say, Ken and I have worked together a lot the last couple of years in this literacy space. I've seen a lot of progress with the students who have been using the tools that we provide to support this initiative that we have and close the gap to grade level reading. I encourage parents to look into these tools more. Again, calling Delaware 211. If you're interested in learning more about Book Nook, call Delaware 211. We have plenty of information that we can share. We have an amazing team staff that's at Book Nook who has worked with us since 2023, I believe, 2022. And what I have seen over the last few years implementing this tool in the different partner organizations across the state, students go into it not wanting to do it, but by the third, fourth week, they're excited to get into it. They're excited to get on Book Nook. They're excited to share what they've learned with their other students, with their parents at home. And we've seen the growth in our students as well. So I encourage the parents and the community members who may be listening to us in this webinar today, please feel free to reach out to Delaware 211, myself or Ken Livingston, even at Book Nook, do a little research, give us a call, let us know if you have any questions. We really want to, again, push that collective effort to work together to really be successful in this pillar to get our kids to read on grade level, because we know how important it is for them to be reading on grade level, because it impacts everything that they do throughout their life.
Thank you, Ebony. And I would also like to give a special thank you to our partners with Book Nook, including you, Laura. So thank you once again for partnering with United Way of Delaware, and then also taking the time to join us today. And thank you to you, Ebony, for leading the charge and really being the point of contact for our Book Nook initiative throughout the state of Delaware with our partnering organizations. So thank you as well. I would also like to thank our behind the scenes technical advisor, Fallon McLean, who was our United Way of Delaware marketing director. So thank you, Fallon, for joining us today as well and really managing the slides behind the scenes. Also, as a final word and a reminder, United Way of Delaware works with organizations across the state to address poverty and inequity, supporting programs that make a real difference. From early education to financial literacy to college and career readiness, all of those programs impact equity, and our focus is on creating lasting change. By uniting our community around common goals, we are not just providing support, but laying the groundwork for a future where everyone can thrive. Please join our fight to make a difference in Delaware, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.